Hello, everyone, and welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the Laura Canfield Show, the Awaken to Happiness Now Global Series. Thank you so much for joining us today as we launch our new season, the Winter-Spring 2020 season. And our mission here is to inspire and empower you to live your life fully in your sovereignty, in your power, with an abundance of joy, peace, love, happiness, prosperity, and radiant health. And so, part of our mission for this show is that you do learn something new, you experience something new, you receive more. So be open to receiving today. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I honor you and I value your time, and I acknowledge you for being here so that you can receive, right? Receive more and learn and grow. And so I'm going to invite you to grab some paper and a pen or your computer and be ready to take some notes. Take some notes and just be open to receiving, be open to allowing. And, a lot of times, people say, well, I'm not feeling anything. So take a few deep breaths and be in your heart space the best you can and expand out, okay? And now, please join me in welcoming our guest for today, Omaji Andaria. She's been with us before, yay, and she's back with us. So thank you, and welcome, Omaji.
Thank you. I'm very grateful to be here and to be with each of you today. So thank you for having me.
Awesome. And so today we're going to be talking about, your infinite nature, who you really are, remembering who you really are. And we're going to be receiving some energetic processes, right? And, doing a short Q&A as well. So it's really important for all of us to just be willing to receive, because even as you're talking, as you're being present, you are constantly transmitting information and energy, right, to us. So, for us, it's not just about the words, but it's the energy. So be willing to be open and receive. And I know it's going to be a fun show. High vibe like we had last time. And for those of you who may not know Omaji, she is a catalyst for expansion, pioneering the birth of new ways of being into this realm. And she lovingly serves to remind you of what you really are beyond the limitations that you are currently perceiving, so that you can remember your infinite self and your infinite capacity to choose. And that's one of the things that I really value and I find really important, is that we are infinite. We're much more than our thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And we're much more than our circumstances, right? And we can choose. So I'm so glad you're here to share with us and to start off the season in this, really expansive way. So let's start. So since you've been with us before, I just want to jump into it, okay? So what has been going on for you, Omaji, especially right now, 2020, we're finally here. There's a lot of stuff going on. What do you perceive is going on right now?
A lot is happening to move us into optimal trajectories. And it's already happening. It's already happened, and it's still happening. So it's like waves of this alignment to our optimal trajectory. And so that's happening as a collective, and it's happening for each of us as individuals. And so your higher selves are really in charge in a way of driving you into the places and spaces that will support you in choosing the higher octaves. Now, the key here is that you have to choose it. Your higher self isn't going to choose it for you. So one of the things that I should share here is I work with a group of collective enlightened beings called the Council of Light. And they're actually stepping forward, just acknowledging you and acknowledging your courage, acknowledging your tenacity to not only be present here today, because that's a part of it. It's showing up. It's being available for new perspectives, for new ways of being to be remembered by you. So they want to celebrate that. And this year, they're saying, is a year of a catalyst. It's a year to really create movement. And so for those of us who have felt maybe a little stuck, or like we've been waiting, or things aren't quite syncing up, this is the year that all of that's, we'll say, the rubber meets the road for many of you in being able to realize those things that you've been chipping away at in your evolutionary journey.
And so, but part of that also means, you know, we have to take action. We have to listen to our insights into, you know, when we're tapping in, we're getting like this little smidge of information, you know, take advantage of that and say, all right, does this resonate? Number one, right? And then it's like, all right, what can I do with this now? And, you know, let's keep moving forward. So it is about tapping in, being connected to your higher self, continuing to ask questions, and at the same time taking those actions, right?
Yeah, and I think the question that I'm perceiving as stepping forward and wishes to be addressed is, well, how do I do that? I've been trying so hard to get guidance and hear those nudges or be aware. And what we would say to that is, and when I say we, it's really us as a collective, including the Council of Light, is that you can begin to invite, in partnering with your higher self and us, the Council of Light, if you choose, your angels, your guides, to call that forth for yourself. And this is really a year where the manifestations are ripe to actually occur. Now, what we would say is a part of you is already doing it. We'd like to give you space to let that sink in. A part of you is already doing it. A part of you is already in direct communication with your higher self, with source, with the divine, with your angels, with guidance that serves you. And so take a moment to recognize it's not something you have to create from scratch. It's more about you inviting the attunement to that frequency, unique frequency for you, where you can be conscious of what's being shared, what's being received, what's being communicated. And so we would invite you, if you choose, to choose now to ask your higher self to begin attuning you to the space and place where you receive that clarity in communication. The other piece here is to recognize that the way you receive it, the way you get it, might be very different than somebody else's way of getting it. So it may not be in the form of a sentence or a story or a big long dialogue. It may just be a knowing that you have, that they're showing me many of you have been dismissing as guidance. You think it's your imagination or it's not enough information for it to be accurate. And the thing about knowing is it's actually extremely accurate because it cuts to the chase. And so we would encourage you to release any conclusions you've made about you that you're not already in a space and a place and an evolution of, we say, your training as a being of light, where you have that available to you, because you are already, if you're on this transmission, if you're on this call, you're already in a place where that's happening, where you've cultivated a way of receiving that communication. And so as you be willing to release conclusions that you're not, it can then begin to move into your awareness of how you are uniquely receiving it. For some of you, it may be through journaling, through writing, through, again, a knowing or an impression of an idea that it's like, oh, da-da-da. And so you're going to unpack it differently for you than I will for me, or, you know, Joe will for him. And so recognize that you are a unique being of light. And one of the things we're inviting to occur for us evolving beings in consciousness in 2020 is to retire the need for comparison.
Yes, that's a big one. Absolutely. And you know, what you just said right now is about acknowledging that you are already receiving information, receiving guidance, receiving wisdom, right? Acknowledging that and continuing to ask for more, right? But at the same time, just the acknowledgement of, yes, I am already receiving, I think that just lightens up the world for everybody, because we have this I sometimes feel like we're in a fog that I can't see it, I can't hear it, I can't feel it, I'm not getting anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so then we get stuck in that. We just stay in that and say, I'm not getting anything, you know? It's like, sometimes even I say, no, they're really silent right now. They're not talking to me, which I know is not true.
Well, and I can relate, because for me, there have been times where they do just sit and they don't give an answer right away, because I've either asked the question in a way that they can't really answer it from a place of truth, right? They're waiting for me to move into a more empowered space of asking, not a victimhood or a, whatever. And so it could be that. It could be they're waiting for you to rephrase the question, or your higher self is in a place where you're being invited to cultivate more trust, more patience, that things are unfolding.
As I roll my eyes.
Yes, and the other thing we say, this kind of circles back around to releasing our expectations, because many times we're expecting it to look a certain way when we receive guidance, and it's actually coming. It's just not coming the way we expect it to.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's the thing, that expectation that it has to be like this because this other person receives it like this. Again, it's that comparison, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're comparing to what we've seen other people do, right? And or how they receive, and we think we should receive that way too, but it's totally different. I don't receive the same way, as at all as anybody else. So it's like, well, I'm going to receive however I do, knowing that. And this is the thing that I think is important, is like knowing that when you are asking, they are hearing you, right? They are hearing you, and
the answer being transmitted, whether you get it on an intellectual level or not.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, they don't want to disempower you anymore. We've been disempowered for so long, and they don't want to disempower us. So that's why sometimes we don't get the answer that we're looking for, because like you said, we're not asking from an empowered state. We're asking from lack. We're asking from scarcity. We're asking from victimhood. And that is not, the empowered sovereign being that we are, right? And so for those situations, maybe that's why they're waiting. It's like, okay, well, let's see how else does she ask? It's like, when is she gonna, I feel like sometimes they must go like this all the time. It's like, oh God, not again, not that question again. When is she gonna get it?
Yeah,
right?
It's actually, what they show me is it's more like when a child is learning to walk and they fall down a few times. It's part of the learning. So there's no judgment. It's in fact, oh, aren't they so sweet? Right? They're learning. Like that's really the reaction, the true reaction from the angels, from the Council of Light, is an honoring of you, honoring that you're trying, that you fell down and you're getting up again and you're going for it. And it's like they're cheering you on. It's amazing, actually, how much support we have and encouragement. And one of the things that's stepping forward is, if you're willing, you can invite your higher self to receive for you this kind of download that's kind of the how-to guide for you. It's like a remembering of how you connect to source, how you connect to guidance, how you connect to your own intuitive abilities. And you can think of it as, again, a download, an energetic download that you can unpack at the level of your higher self to support you in aligning and attuning to your own unique way of communicating with divine, with source, with angels, with your higher self.
So I know people are going to say this right now. It's like, how do we do that? How do we download that? How do we receive that?
Yeah.
Or how do we get our higher self to receive that, and
so,
hold that package until we're ready? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And so the beauty of it is we remember that our role from this perspective is to choose, is to give permission, is to say yes or not. We don't have to, right? It's our free will. So when we say yes, higher self, will you do this for me? Will you download this? That resonates. It resonates for me to be able to communicate more clearly in my own unique way. That's our job. Then we let go. Then we allow. Then we don't have to feel it. We don't have to sense it. We don't have to experience anything after that. The higher self is doing the work because we've said yes, because we've chosen. And that's the beauty of the journey, really, is our free will. And remembering that empowered stance of choosing because no one else can choose for us.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and we've all had those situations where people have chosen for us and we didn't like it. I mean, I used to be like that. You know, everybody chose for me. I did what everybody wanted me to do, and I was miserable until I started choosing for myself. And it's like, oh, totally different. And that's the thing. That's about being empowered, right?
Yes.
That's about being in your sovereign power and choosing for you. That is the most important, I think, one of the most important qualities that we can embody now is choosing. But a lot of times people don't understand what choosing means. Choosing does not mean, okay, I'm choosing this and then not doing anything. You know, when you choose, you have to take action, right?
Inspired action. And the thing is that there's this kind of I'm being shown the kind of like tangled Christmas lights, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where we've gotten really confused and the wires have gotten really crossed and
Mm-hmm.
tangled around whose role is whose.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, when I choose, then what? Then da, right? So the thing is, when you choose something, so let's just say this attunement to more refined communication with your divine self, with your higher self, it begins to happen in the higher realms first. This realm is a reflection. So it's like we cultivate this relationship with the gestation period, where we are unattached with how long it takes for it to reflect here. But we know work is happening if we've requested it, because we're the one who has authority over our own energetic fields. We're the only one that can choose to open or to close or to invite or to say no. And if we're not choosing, it's basically equivalent to keeping everything the same
Mm-hmm.
and not evolving into a new experience. And so what we would say is that, yes, inspired action is a part of it, but the first step is to make the choice in an empowered way, knowing it means something. It means you've taken your seat at the table, put in partnership with your higher self, and you're moving in a direction that feels more honoring. And that's always the way. We call it following the light. When you move in a direction that feels more honoring. And the way that consciousness functions is we're only going to be seeing, feeling, sensing, experiencing in the physical realm what we've chosen in the past,
Mm-hmm.
as far as usually how we've chosen to identify ourselves, define ourselves, what we've chosen our relationship is with so many different things, like our boss or money or our career or love itself. And that will reflect in our world. And so what we teach is to step back into that space of awareness. And it's really, you're remembering this. We're not telling you something you don't know. We're reminding you of what you already know. Where you recognize, if this is a reflection of what I've chosen in the past, then it doesn't matter how long it's been there. It doesn't matter, if I made it up myself or took on someone else's belief system. I now, in this moment, have the power to choose again. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just a choice away. It's not 10 years. It's not, 50,000 lifetimes. So especially during this accelerated evolution that we're in the midst of, the changes happen more quickly. The reflection occurs much more quickly. And if you're listening to this, it means you're choosing, and maybe not quite with both feet yet, but you begin to dip your toe into evolving consciously.
Mm-hmm.
And that is such a celebration, because it's like, that's such a gift, because it puts you in a position to be able to do a 180 if you choose, with regard to what your experience of yourself and your life has been.
Absolutely. I love that. And that's the thing, because we're in this accelerated time frame, time period right now when everything is fast, 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 fast. Changes are happening quickly. So, but it's like I still feel like sometimes people, you know, they don't know, like, what beliefs can I change? What beliefs should I change? Where do I go find the belief that's going to make the biggest impact, is what, is what I'm picking up on.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so there is a phase of our journey where we're really sorting through belief systems, and we're almost have this magnifying glass. And just like you're saying, the visual I'm being shown is we're kind of searching for, okay, what belief system will actually align me with the most honoring ways of being, the most honoring experience of my life. And what we would say that it eventually occurs is you recognize, we're going to very gently say this because it's a bit of a leap for some of you, but you're headed there. You're headed here. Doesn't mean you have to be here now, but we'd like to point to it so you know kind of where you're headed. Is that, yes, belief systems will color your world, will kind of affect where you're vibrating. But eventually what happens is you move into recognizing that belief systems are limiting because they function from conclusions.
Mm-hmm.
And just take a deep breath around that.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not bad. They're not wrong. It's just an awareness. Oh, wait a minute.
Right.
Oh, right?
Yeah.
So if you know that, then what you can begin to play with, if you choose, and it doesn't mean you can't still play in belief systems and invite higher octave vibrating belief systems. If that's where you are, that's perfect. But if you're ready to begin to play in what we will call ways of being actually function outside of conclusion. They're very fluid, and they're based in unity consciousness and a relationship with oneness as a truth. So there's no conclusion there, but there is an underlying foundation that love is all that's real. And what's happened is, what we are experiencing is the reflection of us choosing to believe otherwise at some point. At some point, we chose to abide into and buy into belief systems of opposing forces, of greater than, less than, of separation, consciousness, separation from source. And there's nothing wrong with that. But we've learned a ton from those experiences, and what we are moving into as a collective, what we're being invited to move into, each of us, is this space of truth where we recognize, if there's appearing to be an opposing force in my life, something against me, something keeping me from who I am or what I'm choosing, I've actually created the illusion of that in some way. I've actually, at some point in my evolution, decided I was separate from my light, my source. That's really all what it boils down to. And so you can begin inviting to release the meaning that's been given that in the past. Mm-hmm. How do you do that? Higher self. I see this reflection of not love, of not truth. Will you reinterpret this for me? I'm willing to release all the meaning I've given it.
Simple.
Very simple, but it's a choice, and it's a very powerful choice. And as you begin to chip away at not needing to define what belief system you're graduating into or way of being that you may be graduating into, you're more concerned with using this as a feedback of whether or not I'm aligned with truth fully within my whole field, my whole being, or part of me still thinks it's separate from source. Mm-hmm. And if so, we can invite the correction in the higher realms.
And I think that's one of the main core issues is that separation, that you know, we're still feeling separate, even though we know, you know, mentally, cognitively, we know that there's no separation, but we don't have the knowing of the experience of what it's like to be not separate, right?
Yes. And we'd like to support you in connecting to the truth that separation is actually not a truth, right? It's an illusion. It's what projects when we agree to it, but it's actually not the truth of who we are. And we'd like to support you in connecting to that knowing that oneness is really the truth, that you are a ray of light emanating directly from an infinite source of love, just as the ray of light emanates from the sun. And that you can know that about you regardless of what you're experiencing. In other words, don't judge by appearances. Can I know who I am in spite of what's showing up?
Right.
That's how you hone in on your frequency. And that frequency of the truth of you will actually begin correcting all the distortions in your field one by one. And it's actually a very simplified way of moving into the alignment with the truth of you.
So is that something we can do today?
Absolutely.
That would be awesome. That and the attunement of, you know, receiving our higher self, receiving, you know, that download that we talked about earlier.
Yes, and that actually has already occurred. It's interesting. Sometimes it sounds just like a conversation. So if you're still waiting for kind of to step over that threshold, you can simply say yes to it now. I wish to receive the download from my higher self.
Yes.
To amplify and hone in on more clarity and communication with my higher self and the divine.
Yeah. Everybody say yes. Yes.
If you're willing, yes. If you're willing, yes.
Yeah.
And one of the ways that we can get the Christmas lights tangled is when we get attached to someone else choosing it with us. So like if we have a spouse or a friend or a coworker, or whenever we get attached to someone else's evolution or awakening, we actually disempower them. And we move ourselves in a separation consciousness mode, which can slow down what we're actually calling forth for ourselves, because it kinks a lot of hoses when we do that. Almost as if we try to take on the role of source for them instead of letting source be their source. And it's very subtle.
I was going to say, but I can still want that my community, you know, receive more, you know, have, you know, like whatever they would like, you know, I can still want that for them.
Yes. So it's beautiful. What I would say is, and I'm just going to share from my experience, and this may not be your experience, but what was happening for me in the last 2 years ago, we'll say, I've actually called forth the tools to move out of that energetic stance because it wasn't honoring for me or for them. But not that things that were shared weren't helpful, because they were. There were things happening in sessions. It was amazing. It was powerful and all of that. But can we go even higher and even more fine-tuned into sovereignty? Absolutely. And so if you connect to how ascended masters hold their energy, they kind of just stand there. They just beam who they are. It's so beautiful. They just are. And what they're being is a mirror. They're saying, this is an example of who you are. You're not exactly this because I'm my own unique divine blueprint. But by me accessing source for me fully and moving into what we lovingly call your note that you're here to play, your song, I invite you to it as well. And that's what happens during these sessions, just by being present, is we're honing in on the truth, on that beam of light, that ray of light emanating from source as who we are. And we're inviting you into it in an unconscious way. And so what happens when we decide what's best for another, we want for another. It's equivalent. It's tricky, but it's equivalent to knowing what's best for them.
Mm-hmm.
Is we actually go now into separation consciousness. We're no longer beaming. We're now, I call it stepping out of our lane. We're not keeping our hands to ourselves and holding that attachment and wanting on ourselves to be the biggest beam of light we can be as who we are. And when you actually hold all that attachment and desire on yourself, you then become the beacon.
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens when we give it away is that's what reflects as separation consciousness. Because I've just taken my light and I put it over here.
Yeah.
Whoa, let's let that in. And it's that's what we were trained to do, right? It's like,
Yeah.
well, wait, isn't that loving? Isn't that helpful? What was happening for me, they want me to back up a minute, is I was getting a lot of migraines. I could feel my energy was off. I was really tired. I was feeling my client stuff. I was feeling the collective stuff. I became very empathically sensitive. And I just kept asking, okay, at some point I was like, okay, there has to be a better way, because this isn't honoring. And I could be so much more helpful to people if I showed up feeling good, every day. And so these answers started to come through, and it was kind of this idea of, are you willing to let go of what you think you already know? That was the guidance. I was like, sure, I will. Because by this point, I was like, yeah, let's do this, right? I've been cultivating that trust. I've been cultivating how consciousness works, and that's really how you go to the next level, is you are willing to let go of everything you think you know in order to let in new information.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when these teachings began coming in. And at first it didn't make sense to me. I was like, well, isn't that loving? Isn't that helpful? But they showed me energetically what happens when we desire for another. We actually take a part of our fabric, our energetic fabric, and we put it on them. And when we do that, it actually weighs them down and disempowers them. And we're no longer now holding a coherent beam of light. We're now in a distortion of separation. So that's why I was feeling their stuff. I literally created a line of energy from me to them saying, I'll be your source because I know what's best for you. And that isn't what I thought consciously, but energetically, that's what was happening in consciousness. And so there's a lot of old paradigms of healing that our systems have been trained to function in, where we take on other people's stuff and try to process it for them. And our bodies do as well. And so we're going to bring in now, if you're willing, you can receive it. We're setting it on the table for you to pick up, is some downloads around moving out of those codependent ways of being that are actually disempowering and not loving and not helpful, into the unity consciousness ways of being and the grid systems of healing that function from oneness, you aligning to your source, actualizing and activating and connecting to your own healing source, your own spiritual power.
Mm-hmm.
And you invite everyone else to do the same. Because why would we try to be their source when they have an infinite source? And here's the other piece that's interesting, is that our energy, because we're unique, is not coded for someone else. It's not going to work for them. They need to access their own energy from source, their own note, their own resonance, their own codes that they already have access to. And let me tell you, when this kicks in for many of us, the rubber's really going to meet the road, and then it's going to spread out, right, collectively, and everybody's going to be beaming.
Awesome. And that's what we want. We want everybody to be in their power, beaming their light, however they want to do it.
Yes.
And in the meantime, without any agenda.
Yeah, in the meantime, there's no judgment.
Yeah.
If we're hearing this, then it's time to hear it. That's all it is. It's like, oh, okay, it's time for this learning now. It's time for this kind of rewiring into a new way of being, or not, if it doesn't resonate for you.
Absolutely. And if it does, I mean, it's totally resonating for me. So, it's, Yeah,
I
it's gonna
know
be
it's a
a
lot.
shift in my energy. So I'm saying yes to everything that you're offering, everything you're bringing to the table. I'm taking it. I'm picking it up. So yes, I will have it. Thank you. So there was a question from Vicky has had her hand raised for a while. Vicky, do you want to unmute yourself? Or I can unmute you if you'd like.
Yeah. Okay.
Hello? Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Hi, Omaji.
Hi.
Hi. Maji, you've heard this before. But I am so willing and I am asking for assistance. And I invite it and choose it. How can I'm choosing this. I'm willing this. I ask my higher self. I invite my body and all this. But how do you do this and not get caught up in your experience when it's so extreme of being able to support the physical form here?
And just take some deep breaths because there's a lot moving, just you talking. And this is for everybody. So invite whatever wants to move for you to move if you're willing.
I am willing.
And take another deep breath. And so we're going to use a tool to bring forward consciousness in a way that allows us to go beyond where we're currently functioning. So it may not make sense to the intellect. And there's really not a conscious answer. It's going to be unconscious. So are you willing to just kind of move through this and feel your way through this rather than...
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. So what energy, vibration, and consciousness can you and your body be that would allow you to move into a higher octave, in relationship to everything you're pointing to with your conversation? And just take a deep breath into that energy. And whatever doesn't allow that, are you willing to release and uncreate it?
Yes.
So your job here is to say, I'm willing. Your
I
higher
am willing.
self is going to do the work. The body, David's higher self, is going to do the work. And just take some deep breaths. And everyone can do this that wishes to. And now we're going to ask another question. What energy, vibration, and consciousness are you refusing to be? That if you were willing to be it, would shift you into an expansion, accessing many more of your resources as a being of light. And whatever doesn't allow that, are you willing to release and uncreate it?
Yes.
And take some deep breaths. Are you willing to release all the meaning you've given the appearances, the stories, the past, the expectations that have been kind of constructed around current circumstances?
Yes.
And just give yourself a moment, and everyone can do this, thinking about whatever's been, quote unquote, bothering you or concerning you, just to bring that energy forward. And it's really with this attitude of witnessing. It's this attitude of, I'm willing to release all the meaning I'm giving this. And we're going to invite your body, Davis, to join you in this sacred space of kind of purging where we've been vibrating a little bit, just resetting. And so the other piece that I'm being shown is, and we just pointed to this a moment ago in a different way, where we get attached to something outside of ourselves. And in a moment ago, we talked about getting attached to another's journey or evolution or experience. But in this case, we can get attached to what we want the external to look like. When we get attached, it's the same as agreeing to keeping it all the way it is. So can we show you at the level of your higher self, your body's higher self, how to release the attachment up and off of all the circumstances, all the out picturings off of how things have been showing up?
Yes, please.
Okay, and to retrieve all of that energy, which is actually your power, cleaning it, clearing it, recalibrating it. We're also going to include here your creativity, your creative energy, your creative force, where you've been trying to direct it in the external. We know this may not make sense to you yet, the others on the call that haven't worked with us a lot, but we'll explain it here in a moment. Retrieving all your desire, creativity, attachment, up and off of everyone and everything external from all dimensions and all incarnations. Bring it back to you in your beam of light. Cleaning it, clearing it, recalibrating it, reweaving it in your fields to be used on you, for you, so that guess what? You have access to all your power, all your light.
Yes.
And your resources. Your light is your resources. Your light is your supply. And when you give it away, put it outside of yourself, then you will appear to be separate from it. And just taking a moment. And now the question is stepping forward. Well, I've done this process before, and then it went back to the other way. We have to keep doing it as we retrain our fields to function from unity consciousness. Because for eons, we've been functioning from separation consciousness. And what happens is when we do this process and we bring all of our light back to our being, and we're beaming, and we've got it, and it's here. And then we hang out with somebody, or we bring forward a memory from the past and we play it out in our minds, or we watch something on television, or that they're running the other ways of being, which 99% of humanity is. Our systems, including our body Davis system, can begin to run it the other way again. So it's like we have our training wheels on. It's what we're in the midst of mastering right now. And how amazing is that? That we've gotten to a space in a place in our journey of evolution where we're actually mastering being a master presence here in this realm. That's pretty amazing. And so celebrate that you're conscious of it. Celebrate that you're aware of it. Celebrate that you crossed the threshold into this very juicy place of claiming your power back and moving into greater empowerment. And the other thing we're going to add here is anywhere we've given responsibility away, that's actually our responsibility to hold on ourselves for our evolution. And where we're meant to hold that appropriately is at the level of our higher self. Our higher self is responsible for our evolution. And our job in that is to partner with our higher self to choose in favor of it as much as we can, as often as we can, as much as it resonates to do so. So can we show you and your body, Deva, how to shift that responsibility appropriately and retrieve it off of any religious authority and any incarnation that we gave away? We gave someone else that responsibility or tried to give our power of choice away, any of that. Can we clean all that up in collaboration with your higher self?
Yes, please.
And take a deep breath. And now we're going to invite the updating of your grids, how you're functioning. To invite these new ways of being, invite your grids, and again, this is for everybody, to upgrade and to function from this new configuration, this new choice in this higher octave of consciousness that is unity consciousness. It's like foundation, not separation consciousness, unity consciousness. And so as you're willing, you can invite that updating of your grids, your reference points, and the ways in which you perceive.
I'm willing.
Excellent.
I invite.
Yes.
So this is a learning, like you had said. So as we do this, Will you please work with me in teaching me how to do this?
So what are you referring to exactly?
To access my resources from inside and to amplify and activate them stronger from inside and not keep doing it the old way. Because I choose it over and over and over. So I know I am making progress on it because I trust myself.
Yes, and they're saying keep choosing it. And so what they're showing me now that you're pointing to, which is a very significant aspect of this alignment, so thank you for that, is locating at the level of your higher self and your body, at the level of its higher self, locating your reference points for your resources. And anywhere those reference points are being held outside of you, on anyone or anything, a bank account, people, clients, a job, anywhere you've made source something external, the source of your freedom, the source of your safety, the source of your support, the source of your love, the source of freedom, anyone, anything really, anywhere you've taken reference points and placed it on something in the future, something outside of you, are you willing to gather up all those reference points for all those qualities, for all those yearnings of the heart, those desires, and bring them back into your divine column of light? So you're referencing it within your light.
Yes.
Because here's the thing, everyone, and this is such a beautiful full circle teaching, is that your light is your supply. It is already full and overflowing. And as you gather it all back up and bring it back into your beam so it's no longer diluted, move your reference points for accessing everything you desire within your being. It reflects in the world from there. Now, that's not why we do it. We have to stay unattached to what shows up and doesn't show up in the external. That's the most streamlined way. What you concern yourself with, or what we would invite you to, is what you're cultivating within yourself and your light. If you wish to experience more freedom, invite your higher self to activate more freedom within your light as a frequency.
Yes.
If you wish to experience more safety, more support, invite your higher self, your body, David's higher self, to activate more safety, support within its divine column of light. And so we include the body here because you are not the body. The body has its own consciousness. And it's important to invite it along for the ride. We can't choose for the body, and we don't want to go into codependence and try to get attached to what the body's choosing. But we choose what we're choosing, and unattached to what anyone else chooses, invite the body to join you. Because the thing is, it will, because it wants to be free too. And as you demonstrate how to be free within yourself, the body's going to go, oh, let's do that. let's be more free. And so as we take one more step here, just to make sure everybody's referencing themselves within their light, we invite you to take all your reference points off everyone and everything external and to bring it back into your beam of light. In other words, where you're referencing you. Take it off the body, take it off your thoughts, your emotions, your experiences, and reference you in your beam of light. If you choose.
No, I definitely choose it. So is there something that you can help me with that will keep me unattached to being able to support, to not work, to be unattached to whether I can pay my rent or not, whether I'm homeless or not?
So I was just going to say, Omaji and Vicky, we have lots of other people with their hands raised. So if you, Vicky, want to get the package, then I think there's like 2 live group calls plus other stuff that you can work with Omaji more as well.
Yeah, and the thing is, when you begin to ask the question, we invite you to receive it as a download.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank
Awesome.
you. Thank you for your courage, because you're so courageous. She's like a warrior, courageous. And she demonstrates that for us. It's like, look, I'm getting to the bottom of this. I'm not putting up with, sort of, kind of a line.
Anymore. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, and that was so helpful for all of us because of everything that Vicki brought up, right?
Yes.
So.
And, to answer the question now intellectually in a simple way, for all of us, how do we keep, staying unattached? We have to continue to ask, right, until we retrain our field to no longer get attached. Continue to ask your higher self to release your attachment off of everyone and everything outside of you, and to bring it back to you, your light. So you're only attached and responsible for your light, for what you're cultivating within your being.
And a lot of it is just, old habits. And so that's why we have to keep doing it over and over again when we catch it, right?
Yeah, it's a retraining. We're retraining our consciousness, and it's not easy. Like, none of this is meant to say it's easy. Are the processes simple? Yes. Is it always easy to remember to do it and easy to kind of keep at it? No, it can seem very tedious. But as I've been doing this for myself for the last year, the migraines have gone away. The feeling tired, so much has shifted for me. So I really encourage all of you to kind of know there's a light at the end of the tunnel, literally. If you keep doing it, you'll begin to feel tangible and see tangible results.
Awesome, thank you. So there are a few other people with their hands raised, and Carol didn't know how to raise her hand. Carol, do you want me to I'll go ahead and unmute you, try and find you. There you are. And then you can ask your question, because I know you didn't know how to unmute or raise your hand. Hello, hi.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Me, Carol?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I had to run to the bathroom. I apologize.
No worries. Did you still have a question for Omaji?
I do. I really just would like to know, is there a way for us to reach our higher self, to hear them more clearly? Because I sit in meditation, yet I don't really feel like I'm downloading or hearing anything or anyone. I know they're there. Is there something that we need, that I can do to make that happen?
So that is something that we did at the very beginning. Sorry, I'm just going to say, Omaji, that's one of the attunements or downloads that Omaji had offered right at the beginning. And she said, ask for it. So say yes, be willing to, right? Number one. And then go ahead, Omaji.
Yeah, so I'm watching some energy move as you're bringing it forward. So just take some deep breaths. The thing that we want to point out while this is happening, and then we'll circle back around, is that when you ask for something, you start receiving. You may not be conscious that you are. It may be happening in another dimension. You are a multidimensional being, and a part of you is receiving. Then it will ripple and reflect into this dimension when everything aligns for it to do so. And so know that you are receiving. And whenever we ask divine for something, whether it's guidance or support or alignment, it's happening. We may not be conscious of it. That's where we can get frustrated, is we want to be
On our time limit?
already our higher self in this incarnation, right? We want to have all that information. And the thing is, it's a journey back to, you could say, that version of ourselves. And so there's a bit of kind of recognition that if we were meant to have a greater awareness of all of it, we would already have it from this level. And trusting the part of us that does have it to orchestrate in the appropriate ways as we invite it, the downloads, the awarenesses that can come in, the ahas that can click in. But the main culprit here for us when we're functioning with divine communication, again, is the expectations where we think it's going to show up a certain way. And this came forward earlier, in this coming forward in a different way now, where we think it's going to be intellectual. So are you willing to release any conclusions that it's going to be intellectual?
Yes.
That you're going to actually be able to process it linearly?
Yes.
Because what if it's nonlinear? What if it's from this purity of who you are, that if you receive the guidance, the downloads is more of a transmission that you're not consciously aware of yet. You don't have the words, the data, the intellectual understanding. It will actually be downloaded into your field, and then it will be unpacked in a perfect way to where then you become aware of what that information was, or it brings forward the perfect set of circumstances. It reflects in your world as the perfect set of circumstances for you to move into exactly what you're inviting for yourself. As long as it kind of aligns with the divine will for your evolution, it's going to be honoring. It's going to bring you into a greater understanding of yourself, and your understanding isn't the right word, greater alignment with who you are. And so it may not be intellectual. A lot of times we'll ask for guidance and then we let go, right? We're unattached. So a lot of times I won't get guidance in meditation either. It comes later. It comes when I'm in the shower. It comes when I see, a billboard and I read it a certain way, but it actually says something completely different. So allow yourself to be in that space of welcoming it however it comes, and to be willing to be unattached with whether or not it's ever really conscious.
So basically to trust.
Yes.
Let it go, trust, let it go. And if it's to be, it will be.
Yes.
Basically. Okay.
And the thing is, if your higher self wants to get you a message that you really need to have, right?
Yes.
It will make sure you get the message.
Yeah. I get those aha moments.
Yes. And that doesn't mean we can't ask questions, but we would invite you to re-listen to this. And as Alara mentioned, invite the downloads that are here for you in really moving into a higher octave of communication with your higher self and the divine.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Happy New Year.
Awesome. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
And, and that's the thing, one of the things that, the trust, but also about, continue to do what you're doing, continue to meditate, continue to ask questions, continue to invite spirit in, invite your guides in, into your meditation or just into everyday life. I think Linda had asked about that. Like, how do you invite your guides or your team into meditation? I just call them in, I just call them in. And it's like having a conversation, because it's not like they only hear you when you're sitting in meditation. No, they're aware of your conversation with them at any time, right? That's my understanding anyways.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
I don't have to be sitting in meditation to talk to them, right? All right, so let me see, where am I here? So I hope I say your name properly. Enaida? I'm not sure, but I'll go ahead and unmute you because I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. Hello.
Hi, it's Anada.
Enaida, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I just want to ask a question about how can I open my channels of abundance, because I had a long journey looking for a job. I got a job. I tried really hard to hold on to it and lost it anyway.
Yeah. So the first thing that we'll bring forward here is, are you willing to release all the meaning you're giving it?
Yes.
And we know that isn't always easy to choose.
I was going to say that's a fast yes. I don't know if I could say it so quickly.
Yes, I want to put it that way.
Okay. So take some deep breaths as we invite the higher self to begin to move you into that space of neutrality. And what if none of it means what you think it means? And take another deep breath. So what this is doing is it's moving us into spaciousness, where we can actually invite this shift that wants to happen for you.
Okay.
So what is it about a job or that job that was really important to you?
I'm so sorry.
Was there something specific about that job that made it very important to you?
What made it important to me is that I went to school for this specific type of job. I was able to get it, and it seemed to be where I would move ahead in the job.
Right. So there was like a sense of being able to work your way up.
Exactly.
So everywhere you've made the job the source of that, are you willing to release and uncreate that?
Yes.
And what is the feeling that would, we could say, that you thought that would give you to be able to work your way up?
Finally get a sense that my education was worthwhile, because I've gotten a degree, but I haven't been able to get like any better than minimum wage jobs.
Okay. So everywhere you placed the degree kind of as the way, like this degree is my way to be abundant, are you willing to release and uncreate that?
Yes.
And everywhere you gave it that responsibility, are you willing to claim that responsibility back to you at the level of your higher self?
Yes.
Referencing within your light the infinite abundance that's actually there. And what if you could actually ask your light, the infinite abundance that actually resides within your light, how it wants to reflect in your world? What if you could have a conversation with it? How it wants to be accessed and played with and reflected?
Hmm. Okay.
And are you
Never
willing to
thought of
release all the
that.
meaning you've given the degree? Because I have a degree too, and I'm not using it. Not even close. Oh, and it doesn't mean that it can't play a role for you in getting a job in the future. It just means, gosh, we put it on this pedestal and made it kind of our be all end all, when actually our be all end all is within us, and it's overflowing infinite supply.
How do I get it out?
So let that sink in, first of all, right? It's like, oh, so we're going to point to something here for everybody that's very fundamental, and it seems almost too obvious to mean anything, but it's actually this huge epiphany if you let it be. And I laugh because I overlooked this for so long. Because we're so powerful, when we decide something is true, it appears to be true for us. And if we decide to actually agree with what's true, if we decide to agree that our light is our supply, it's infinite, and it is who we are, we can never be separate from it, then that's what we'll get to experience ourselves as. And so you can begin to invite your higher self to move you into that alignment with that truth vibrationally. And so are you willing?
Yes.
Yeah, and so we want to just bring forward a little clarity around this as well. So when I first stepped into spirituality, and it may still be a big thing, but I just don't see it as much anymore because I don't really relate. I'm in a different vibration. Was affirmations. And if I say it, I'm prosperous enough, then I'll move into that vibration. The thing is that the way it was taught to me at first anyway, was that I was using that affirmation as a way to manifest something. And we'd like to reinterpret that a little bit. What if you're actually just aligning yourself with with what's actually already true. You're not trying to make it true. You're not trying to create it. It already is. You're just inviting the alignment with what's already true and being willing to let go of all the other conclusions you've made. So what if it's actually true that your light, that is you, your beam of light, has an infinite supply of everything you require to be free, to be sustained, to be the you actually came here to be.
Yes, yes.
Does that feel true?
Oh, yeah, well, it feels like something I want to be true.
Okay, so thank you for that feedback. So we're just going to bring in some downloads to support in, it's almost like we're attempting to use what has been as evidence of what's true or what's possible, when what has been is just evidence of what we chose to agree with in the past.
Got it.
And so from this new, fresh vantage point, you could even imagine yourself on the threshold of this open field of possibilities, because that's who you are. What if you could choose to align with what's actually true so that it can be your experience moving forward?
I like that feeling.
Yeah, it feels free, right?
Yeah.
And empowering. So many things. So we're just bringing in these downloads to support each of you in your own unique way in aligning with this remembering of you as a being of light who already has. You already have all of it. It's not outside of you. It's not in the future. You are your beam of light. That is, it will never change. It will always be that. And it contains everything you require to sustain yourself. So just inviting you to move all your reference points for your resources there, inviting your body, David, to do the same. And your teams to model it, to model it around you. The thing is, the Ascended Masters are always modeling to us what we call right energy, how to run your energy from oneness, from source, connected to source, right? I know I'm connected to source. I know I have. If you're in the vibration of, I know I have, I already am, lack cannot reflect in your world. Do you feel that?
Yes, I understand that. There's no room.
You're getting it.
Yeah.
I can feel it clicking in for many of you. So what if you could practice every day connecting to your beam of light, seeing it emanating from source, and practicing the knowing that you already have, because it's true, and not trying to function in external stuff. We release our attachment off all of that. We just focus on, I already have. This is where everything reflects from, and I already have infinite supplies of everything, of love, of abundance, of freedom. And we encourage you to relate to it in terms of qualities, not specific details or things, because then you go external with your energy.
Okay.
If you think of it in terms of freedom, flow, peace, abundance, joy, and invite your higher self to amplify. It's almost like you create your own cocktail of you. Amplify these frequencies for me so I can experience myself as more of this, because you are your light. So as you focus on you being your light, you move your reference points there. You keep them there if you do that every day. And as you cultivate these frequencies, which we often call plucking the strings on the harp, you have infinite strings to pluck. What cocktail do you want to create? What do you wish to experience yourself as? If it's more free, then choose freedom as a frequency and invite your higher self to do that, to pluck the strings and to ripple and reflect it down through you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Beautiful. Yes,
Awesome.
everybody's celebrating.
Yes,
In the
thank you
higher
so
realms,
much.
too.
That was
Thanks.
awesome, Anita. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
I'll go ahead and, well, I can't mute you. There you go. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Oh, that was great. And but my mind still is like, yeah, but I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's a great feeling, but I don't know. Am I experiencing it? It's like, yeah, I know, I get it, but it's like, you know, that's
Well,
just what's coming forward right now is what I'm perceiving.
yeah. And at first it feels like nothing, it can feel like they're saying nothing's happening. It can feel like that at first, but that's because it's not occurring in the way the linear mind is expecting it to.
Mm-hmm.
And so it takes a while of practicing, releasing expectations, releasing significance off of everything external, and honing in on who you are and plucking the strings, right? Inviting the higher self to pluck those strings. Because yes, you get to choose what you experience yourself as and what you wish to cultivate within yourself. And as you hold all responsibility and attachment on you, for you, and that's my job, right? And you let everybody else take care of themselves at the level of their higher self, that's when you can really let the rubber meet the road.
Mm-hmm.
We know at first it's going to sound like, well, I'm not being loving if I'm not worried about my friend. And we would say, worrying about your friend is disempowering them and you. So,
Mm-hmm.
so remember to remember.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So I wanted to take a few moments and talk about the special offer that you have for our audience.
Yes.
So for those of you who are on the live page, you can just click on special offer. And those of you who are not, you can go to alara.at/show/Omaji1, OMAJI1. So, sorry. So this special offer includes 2 live group sessions with you and the Council of Light, as well as the Abiding in Your Knowing series of light transmissions and activations. Can you tell us a little bit about what people can expect from this package, and who is this program really for?
That's a good question. And the first thing is anyone who resonates with it, anyone who's resonating with the vibrations presented here, because every recording that we cultivate and co-create with you contains vibrational remembering that will call you into that vibrational configuration simply by listening and giving permission for, as we say, if you choose, and saying yes to what's being offered there. And each time you listen, you actually will receive additional, because you're different the second time you listen. You're different the third time you listen. And it's multidimensionally layered to support you infinitely. So we encourage you, some of you already have some of our recordings, and we offered a free 111-minute session for people who signed up for this telesummit. We would encourage you to listen and re-listen even to this, because you'll hear it differently each time. That's how consciousness works. Mm-hmm. As we expand, then we're going to go, oh, I didn't hear it that way last time, right? We actually have ears to hear. So what I would say is that if you are calling forth a rapid acceleration in your journey, if you've been feeling a bit stuck or a bit uncentered or separate, all of this is coming from those energies of unity consciousness. And the Abiding in Knowing series was offered, and it's a beautiful complement to what was shared here today, of course, to support us in connecting to that higher self, that part of us that knows. And there are various attunements and processes, so many, right? It's like this whole treasure chest above and beyond what we did today, to really support you in honing in on connecting to that part of you that knows that I am, that's really already living in the expression of its highest expression.
Mm-hmm.
And so you could think of it as you attuning to your highest expression every time you listen, and really strengthening that muscle of communication with your divine self, that knowing. And so feel into it. We always invite people to feel into whether or not it resonates for you, and you'll know. Part of you will know. And then there's this other piece where the mind gets involved and it tries to talk us out of it, or some resistance comes up. And what we would say to you is this: every time you're on the threshold of an expansion, resistance is going to present itself, because there's a part of you that will always want everything to stay the same, because it's associated with that being safe.
Mm-hmm.
Until eventually you retire that. But that's down the road a bit. So we would encourage you to just simply be in that awareness. Okay, the mind's going to come up with excuses, even though my first reaction is, this is going to help me, this is going to expand me, this is going to move me into more of who I really am. And anytime you move into more of who you really are and you access more of you, it gets to reflect in your world. So there will be an increase in some way. That's just how consciousness works. That's how your light works. It's fundamental metaphysics. And so what we often say is that if you're, and this is with anything when you're making a decision on, if you feel into it and it's a yes, or you're not sure, you can say, okay, if money wasn't an issue, if time wasn't an issue, if this or that wasn't an issue, would I choose it? And then you'll get your accurate answer, because the linear mind is going to come up with all kinds of limitation reasons why we can't have it. And we would say where there's a will, there's a way. So I would invite you to connect to your own knowing as a practice in choosing. And then the expanding new ways of being, we do 2 transmissions a month that are live, and one of those calls is interactive. They're both approximately 60 minutes, although we tend to go a little bit long here and there. And so they're very, again, powerful, really focused. And the Expanding New Ways of Being is what I would refer to as my advanced group. They're really on that leading edge of consciousness, calling forth really incredible new teachings and tools that will manifest very spontaneously during those sessions, because they're ready. And so again, when we talk about acceleration, it's really about that. It's really about, okay, how can we harness the power of this time in our evolution, where the energies are actually all here to support us in quantum leaping into a higher expression. And that's really what Expanding New Ways of Being was created for.
Awesome, beautiful, thank you. And because there is a 2 payment plan available as well for the package, you can take advantage of that. And if you are part of the Empower Yourself Inner Circle, you have a discount code as well that you can use towards this package as well. So please do take a look at it, see if it resonates with you. If you are wanting to be more expansive, more in touch with your higher self, with your team, and really start to use some of these tools that Omaji shared with us today, and in the free gift that she shared with you, and this is going to be a wonderful way for you to start to expand into that, and expand more into your way of being, and trusting yourself, right? And asking the questions, and starting to perceive what else is possible, right?
Yes. Yes. And to choose from that, even if it doesn't appear to be possible yet, choose it anyway.
Exactly. Choose it anyways, and see what happens. And that's the thing. It's like, you have to trust yourself and trust your knowing. And like Omaji said, if money and time wasn't an issue, would you still choose this, right? And then you really know what your answer is, yes or no, right? So please do take a look at it. Like I said, that is available at alara.at/show/Omaji1. And depending on when you purchase the package, you will be able to, join the group calls, whenever they happen to be. So it's not like you're going to miss it because you join halfway through the month or something like that. So not to worry about that. Okay. And I was just going to ask if there was something else I wanted to ask you, Omaji, about that. I was just going to ask you, like, with your clients that have worked with you, or with your clients who have been through this program with you in the past, have you seen any exceptional results that are not listed or mentioned in the testimonials?
I mean, I guess the most common that tends to be repeated, as far as, like, everyone has their own unique experience, but the most common is this greater sense of connection and empowerment, and more at peace. So you can think of it as a greater trust. We're at peace more because we trust more. And so I've worked with a lot of people. I tend to, in my intensives, I offer, like 8 weeks intensives. You can do 8 weeks together. Those tend to be the most powerful because we gain a momentum, as well as the expanding new ways of being calls, because they're consecutive, and we build on it. They build on themselves. I often talk about vibrational transformation similar to how we would acclimate to certain temperatures. So if you put your foot in hot water, it's going to feel really hot at first, and then you're going to get used to the temperature, and then you can add even more hot water. This vibrational transformation works very similarly, where you're going to attune to a different vibration, and you're going to kind of plateau a bit, just get used to that, settle into your new default, and then you can go even higher. And so when we do every other week or every week in like the group calls or the individual sessions, it builds on itself, and it's very powerful. I also see in our immersions just amazing things happen because they're consecutive days where they build on themselves, and people tend to choose those things because they're also very ready for a breakthrough. They've already let go of all their resistance in order to say yes to it. Just take a deep breath as some kind of downloads come in around this. In supporting us in letting go of any resistance we may be having to the expansion. A part of us may really be choosing it, but there may be a part of us that is digging its heels in. And we're just going to surround that part of us with love and compassion. We would invite you to just embrace that part of you with so much love and compassion. We're inviting the Council of Light to do the same. Your guides, same for your body, Deva. It's almost like we're on the threshold, but we don't know if we really want that much change. And when I say highly transformative with regard to sessions and series and group sessions that are offered, it's really the shift in how you're running your energy and how you're perceiving yourself in relationship to others, the world, the divine, that is the key. It's what you're identifying as you begin to, they're showing me like we're shifting a degree at a time till we're really looking a whole different way at who we are. And that's really the fundamental, because that's the energy you're coming from on a daily basis when you choose anything throughout your day. You're choosing to see yourself through a certain lens. And the lens that you see yourself through will be reflected back at you. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the vibrational work and the evolution and consciousness work that these sessions offer is a gradual process, but it has a big payoff. If you're willing to put the work in, so to speak, if you're willing to show up, it's not really work, but again, show up, choose, and then take inspired action. And part of this taking inspired action is showing up. You showed up today, and that's amazing.
Absolutely. And that's what it's about. Like all of these people who are here today or live or who will watch or listen to the replay, even that is showing up because they're listening, they're watching, they're being there, they're 100% there. They're focusing on it. They're choosing to learn more about, being in a different way, being in unity consciousness, getting out of separation, right? And loving themselves more, getting into that connection of really, nurturing themselves and self-love. And so they're choosing it, right? So continue to choose it. And we really appreciate you and we acknowledge you for choosing it and for being here with us today. Like I'm so grateful.
Yeah, so that's no small thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's awesome. And so, a lot of these people, in my community, they've been here since 2013 with me, since I started, so I'm like, so much has changed, but as we start this new season, it's like, wow, we're still here. We're still working away. We're still, playing in the space of, of growth and expansion and unity consciousness and love and just, how does it get any better, right? So continue.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So was there, I was just gonna ask you if there was anything else that the Council of Light or yourself would like to share, last words of wisdom before we go today.
So they're stepping forward, inviting you to ask a lot of questions. It's like as you communicate to your higher self, to your guides, to your angels, ask questions rather than like, how can I have more money in my bank account, or how can I, experience more freedom in my job? Ask questions like, I wonder what it would take for me to experience myself as more free. Or I wonder what it would take for me to experience life in a more harmonious way. I wonder what it would take for me to welcome more grace and ease in my daily life, more nurturing, more honoring of myself. I wonder what it would take for me to love myself more. And as you ask that, every one of those questions brought with it a line of energy. You could think of it as a download, an attunement that you're being invited to welcome. And as you welcome the attunement, it moves you to the octave where that answer can express. So the energy happens first, right? And then it might be a week or 10 or 20 days later before something clicks into this realm where it's like, oh, this is an opportunity, or this resonates, or now I'm feeling inspired to do this, or to start yoga, or to go to this bookstore, and whatever. You get those nudges then after you've attuned to the frequency where that lives. So as you begin to function from this place of you as a master of light, the master of frequency, and calling in what you wish to call in collaboration with your higher self, right? Your job is to request it. Your higher self is to do the attunement. And it's really from this place of infinite trust and knowing that you are already supported, loved, and free. And it's simply your choice whether or not to call that in now as an experience of yourself. And then we would say celebrate when you notice even the smallest evidence of more freedom, or you find a penny on the ground, or that sign now, tells me how much I'm loved. And this billboard, right, is reflecting this back to me. And I know that's for me. That message is for me. And celebrate that when you notice the evidence. It will open the floodgates to even more.
Absolutely. Thank you. And that's the thing. That's the key to acknowledgement, right? Acknowledging those little signs and messages that you're receiving, and knowing also that when you do ask, from that place of empowerment, and you are receiving, and that receiving now is happening faster and faster, right? So, this is about being conscious and being more aware that, the more conscious you can be in your day-to-day life, the more you will see and receive. Well, you're always receiving, the more that you'll see, perceive those messages, right?
Yes.
So stay out of your head, stay out of that automatic pilot, right? And consciously choose, right?
Yes. And I used to be very intellectual. So I get, and I still am sometimes, I get that it's hard at first to retrain ourselves to feel our way through rather than think our way through. But I would encourage you to be more of a following the energy if it resonates for you, and know that it's happening, even if you aren't being able to process it intellectually at first.
Exactly. Follow the energy, trust that you're being guided, trust that you are supported, trust that you are loved, and trust that your guides in your team are constantly talking to you, constantly sending you messages. Just trust it. And then, having the trust, then take that inspired action. Knowing, feeling that trust within yourself, then take that inspired action. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And you can feel when you go to take action, whether it's coming from a place of, oh, okay, yeah, this is what feels right, or whether it's coming from fear or some other energy. And just be aware of that. And we would encourage you to recognize that when you create from fear or urgency, that's what you will get more of, because that energy is infused in what you're creating. So again, how do I get out of that? Ask your higher self to attune you to a place of trust, to a place of, I know I'm safe. And that's how you cultivate it. I'm sure there are a million other ways, but this is the way that I am currently using for me, and that comes through these teachings currently as the simplest way to put us in the driver's seat of choice.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you everybody for being with us today, for asking all your wonderful questions. You definitely want to go back and watch or listen to this again. I'm sure you all took wonderful notes because there was so much information, so much knowledge, so much wisdom in this call, as well as the downloads. So it wasn't just words. Remember that, right? It wasn't just words. It was also transmission of light, transmissions of downloads and information and messages. So be willing, when you go back and watch or listen to this again, be willing to say yes. Choose it. Yes, 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 yes. Okay? So thank you so much, Omaji. This was wonderful. I absolutely loved it. It's a great way to start off the season. So thank you. And until next time, may you all continue to be blessed with an abundance of joy, peace, love, happiness, prosperity, and radiant health. Sending you all much love and blessings always. Bye for now.